Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, my friends, now we are going to start our Dhamma discussion. So today on Mindfulness in Buddha's Way, we will study about this question, what is mindfulness? So now we are going to explore Buddha's teachings on this topic on mindfulness. Now, my friends, when it comes to the mindfulness, this is how the Buddha defined the mindfulness. Sati lokasmi jagaro. Mindfulness in the world is wakeful. So, what is the meaning of this? Now, when it comes to the world, we talk about the world as planets, trees, animals, and things that we see. But apart from that, Buddha say the world really is our internal world with ourselves, with our body and mind. So it is our internal world. Mindfulness in the world is wakeful. Buddha say, by being wakeful to our internal world brings us the mindfulness. When we become mindful to our internal world, we'll also be wakeful. So these are similar meanings. Mindfulness equals to wakefulness. So let's see furthermore. Mindfulness keeps you awake to your internal world. Now, what do you think, my friends? So when every day in the morning we wake up, so when we wake up, so we know this is our new day that we are going to spend. So we start to make our schedules and plans to know that how we will spend our throughout the day. So it is a kind of waking up. Every morning we wake up. But when it comes to our internal world, Buddha say we are in a kind of sleep to our inside world, to our mind and body. We don't really know how our mind functions, how our body functions, how these mental constructs happens. So now when it comes to the mindfulness, Buddha say we need to be awake to ourselves. So that's truly the mindfulness means. To waking up to our inside world, to know how our feelings arises and how they are passes, and how our choices arises and how our thoughts arises and they pass. So in that sense, Buddha say the mindfulness is awakening to ourselves. Mindfulness is wakefulness, being fully present, alert, and aware of each moment as it truly is. When once we mindful about our inner world, we'll start to see the reality of our life, the true nature of the life. This wakefulness is a non-reactive, sustained attention that discerns the true nature of experience. Now, it is the foundation for cultivating insight, the higher knowledge, by recognizing the impermanent, unsatisfactory, and non-self nature of phenomena. Through mindfulness, one sees reality as it truly is, progressing towards liberation. So there is a goal of mindful practices that it can take us to the liberation. But by being mindful, it brings us the knowledge of unsatisfactoriness, impermanence, and non-self nature of our inner world. But there are so many different aspects of mindfulness. So we are going to explore these aspects also. In another teaching that we can find among the ancient Buddhist scriptures, there is a book called Netipakarana. So in that book, so there is this beautiful line which say, Apilapana Lakkhana Sati. Mindfulness has the characteristic of non-drifting. Once we become mindful, it has the characteristic of non-drifting. So the mind does not uh, float aimlessly when we become mindful. That is the characteristic nature of the mindfulness. Say that you focus your mindfulness towards your breathing, so your mind can reach to the nature of calmness. It does not drift here and there. So by continuously applying mindfulness, it can bring us peaceful mind. And again, let's say we focus mindfulness to our thoughts or to our feelings, it can bring us this non-drifting nature. Say when while we meditating, so we are trying to improve our mindfulness. We are trying to grow our mindfulness. So by doing our meditations, we should be able to uh, achieve this non-drifting nature. So that's how we understand our meditation is getting success. Why? Because the characteristic of that mindfulness is the non-drifting nature. It does not distract you. If you are ever be mindful, your mind will not be distracted. So that is the characteristic of the mindfulness. So the previously it said the mindfulness is the wakefulness. It will brings us the knowledge of reality. And now here it say the nature of the mindfulness is non-drifting nature. It brings us clarity and calmness. And again, there is another aspect of mindfulness. Mindfulness lets mindfulness lets all these skillful thoughts come in and stops all unskillful thoughts. So that is another feature of mindfulness. Let's say, by a simile, it said that it is like king's guard, the protector of the king, who knows to whom king should respect and to whom king should not respect. So because of the uh, mm, power of the king, so the guard should select the people who the king should respect, like king's teachers or any aristocrats. So the guard will let the king know that you should respect these people, you should not respect these people. So now the guard has the authority over the people to know that who the king should respect or not. So the same way, the mindfulness by a simile just acts just like a guard. So it can guard us. If we develop our mindfulness, it can guard us like a guardian who protects the king. That guard can prevent all the unskillful thoughts entering to our mind and to keep growing the skillful thoughts in our mind. So the God can distinguish. So this mindfulness can distinguish these two. This is unskillful, this is skillful. So as we can see, my friends, the mindfulness is not just the attention, but there is a proceeding knowledge together with the attention. So the mindfulness lets all the skillful thoughts come in and stops all the unskillful thoughts. So that is another aspect of mindfulness. Now we are going to explore more about the mindfulness, and according to the Buddha's teachings, there are some obstacles or the blocks to the mindfulness. So they are called five hindrances, five obstacles. There are some uh, mental states that cloud the mindfulness without letting it arise in us. So we are going to talk about that by studying a sutta teaching. This is a discussion in between our Supreme Buddha and with another person, and he was a Brahmin. So the Brahmins are the high caste people in the Buddha's time. So they used to follow a certain religion. So they study some uh, sacred text in their religion. So he came to the Buddha and asked like this: why is it, good Gautama? Gautama is our Buddha's name. Why is it, good Gautama? How does it come about that sometimes sacred words I have long studied are not clear to me, not to mention those I have not studied? So he said, there are days, even that I studied the sacred words, even though I have them in my memory, they are not clear to me. I don't understand what I have taught, what I have learned. So, not to mention those I have not studied. So, there's nothing to talk about things that I have not studied. So, nothing is clear to me, which means he doesn't see any clarity in his mind. And how is it good? How is it too that sometimes other sacred words that I have not so studied are clear to me, not to mention those I have studied? So there are things that the sacred teachings that I have not studied, but they appear in my mind uh, very clearly, not to mention about those I have studied. So they naturally flows to my mind. I don't need to put much effort. They comes to the mind and they springing in my mind more naturally, which means he said that I can understand things that I learned more easily. But there are some days that I can do that. What there is such difference? Why there is such a difference, Master Gautama? So he's asking from the Buddha. Now the Buddha say, well, Brahman, when a man dwells with his heart possessed and overwhelmed by sense desires, and does not know, as it really is, the way of escaping from that sense desire that have already arisen, then he cannot know or see as it really is what is to his own profit, nor can he know and see what is to the profit of others, or both of himself and others. What did he say? Well, the mind, well, Brahmin, when the mind, the heart, possessed and overwhelmed by sense desires, and when he doesn't know how to escape from these sense desires, in that particular moment, he cannot find what is good for him and what is bad for him, what is good for others and what is bad for others, what is good for both, what is bad for both. So they will not be able, he will not be able to see this profit, what is beneficial for one and what is not beneficial for others. Buddha say again, he is not be able to see the real nature of the mind. By happening what? When the sense desire overpower the mind, when the sense desire possess the mind, when the mind is searching for the pleasure of the sense objects, that is called the sense desire, which means, my friends, there is a thought that, or group of thoughts that asking from us for the enjoyment in sense objects such as beautiful sights, beautiful, attractive, agreeable sights, sounds, smell, taste, touch. When these sense desire arise in our mind, it can easily cloud our mind and overpower our mind. And in that particular moment, the person doesn't know how to escape from this. When that happens to the mind, he cannot see the real nature of the mind, and he cannot go for any knowledge of what exactly, what action does profit beneficial for one and beneficial for others. Why? The mind is not clear, mind is not precise with things about the things which arise in the mind. Buddha said, then even the sacred words he has long studied are not clear to him, not to mention those he has not studied. Now, we can find a special function of mindfulness here. Now, when the mind is overwhelmed and possessed by the sense desire, there is no mindfulness. How we know? Because that time we are not clear with our mind. We don't know what's going on in our mind. All we see is that mind filled with sense desires, asking for, like, to see something, like enjoy by sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. So in that moment, the mind is chasing after these objects. It's said that the mind is like a fish pulled out from the water. The fish, when pulled out from the water, is quakes here and there, trembles, and asking for water. The same way, when the mind does not have sensory enjoyment with the sense objects, it trembles, it quakes, it jumps here and there, it's asking for that sense objects. It is like the mind is like a fish pulled out from the water. So in that particular moment, in that moment, there is only the mind with the sense desires. So in that moment, Buddha say you are not clear with what you studied. Now, again, there is another aspect of mindfulness. When we lack mindfulness, we forget things. We forget things we do. The immediate result of lack of mindfulness is forgetfulness. We start to forget things when we don't have mindfulness, which means when we ever mindful, we can retain the facts, the information we did in the past. We can easily pull the information from our memory when we are mindful. But when we lack mindfulness, we forget. Let's say during a meditation, you develop mindfulness. So how we know that our mindfulness was developed is by understanding that the nature of retaining from memory, which means, let's say, right after the meditation, if a person is forgetting things, so we should know that our mindfulness is not developed if we forget things, which means the one function of the mindfulness is that it can retain from the memory the things that we done in the past. So it's a one aspect of mindfulness. Now the Buddha say, by a simile, when the mind is possessed with the sense desire, it's like this. Imagine, Brahman, a bowl of water mixed with black turmeric, dark green or crimson dye. There are so many different dyes mixed into a water bowl. If a man with good eyesight were to look at the reflection of his own face in it, he would not know or see it as it really is. Why? Because that bowl of water is mixed with different types of colors. Now a person wants to see his face, but he can't take that reflection because of that mixing of the colors. The same way our mind, when it filled with sense desires, it is like mixed with colors. Oh, for sure, there are in the colors there are different uh, colors. When a ball is mixed with different colors, it has a kind of a beauty, like it takes our attraction. But still, we can do our purpose. Let's say I want to see my reflection from such a ball of which is mixed with the colors. So I can take that reflection. My purpose cannot follow. I can't do my purpose if it is mixed with the different colors. So the Buddha say the same way, when the mind is filled with sense desires, he can't see his good. He can see what is skillful and what is not skillful, what is beneficial, what is not beneficial, what is profitable, what is not profitable. It's kind of a blindness when it comes to the inner world. In the same way, Buddha say, he cannot see the things as it really is. And not to speak about retaining from memory the things that they learned, such as the sacred words that one learned. Again, Buddha say, again, Brahman, when a man dwells with his heart possessed and overwhelmed with ill will. Then he cannot know or see. Just the same way with the sense desires, when the mind is filled with ill will, what is the ill will? So it is the very opposite of sense desire. There is a nature of our mind that we resist with the sensory experience. There are things that we uh, recoil through our senses, such as a unattractive sight, a ugly sight, a unattractive sound, unattractive smell, unattractive taste, or unattractive touch. Let's say there is like a word that I hear which is not desirable, like unagreeable sound, a word somebody say. So I will be repelled with that. So that is called ill will. This arises from the root of anger. So this manifests as ill will. So this cloud our mind. This blocks our mindfulness. This distract our mindfulness. So when one is chasing after the sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, they cannot see what is good for them, what is bad for them. When one repel with the sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, when one recoil from those things, when mostly when they live with resistance to the things that they see or hear, that time the mind is only like overpowered by these thoughts. The power of the mind will lack. The mind will be fail to see the things as they really are. By a simile, Buddha say it is like the same bowl of water. Let's say it is heated on fire, boiling up and bubbling over. If a man with good eyesight were to look at the reflection of his own face in it, he would not know or see it as it really was. Why? Because it is bubbling, it is heated. Can we put our face on a heated, bubbling water? No, it can hurt us. So the same way, the mind is like that when it is filled with ill will, the resistance to the sensory experience. In that moment, we cannot look at our mind. The mind is like in a blindness, in a darkness. So there are so many times people followed by with that kind of a mind tend to say harsh words, rude words, like divisive words and actions such as like harming beings, killing beings. It is because they don't know what is beneficial for them and not beneficial for others. So it does not bring us the knowledge that we need to protect us. Again, Brahman, when a man dwells with his heart possessed and overwhelmed by sloth and torpor, then he cannot know or see. The same way, just as the ill will and sense desire did, when the mind is filled with sloth and torpor. What is sloth and torpor? Sloth is the laziness or lack of motivation, while the torpor is the drowsiness or sluggishness that clouds the mind. So have you seen, my friends, the animal sloth? So it is very slow, very lazy. So the sloth takes many days to go some distance. So it is so that's the same meaning here, which when one's mind is overpowered by sloth, they feel so lazy. They don't have motivation. They don't have any energy. And there's another term goes along with the sloth. It is torpor. These two are connected together. And this mental state overpower the mind. We don't see what is good for us and what is good for others. We don't see the clarity of our mind. Again, we cannot retain the things that we did from our memory. So that is the third obstacle for the mindfulness. So it clouds the mind. Buddha said that mind is like this. It is like the same bowl of water covered with slimy moss and water plants. If a man with good eyesight were to look at the reflection of his own face in it, he would not know or see it as it really is. Why? Because the bowl of water is filled with these aquatic plants. We are going to observe our face, but we can't see that. It is covered, fully covered with these moss and water plants. Again, Brahman, when a man dwells with his heart possessed and overwhelmed by worry and restlessness, then he cannot know or see. Worry and restlessness is also a mental state which can block our mindfulness. These two comes together. When a person becomes worried about something, their mind becomes restless. The immediate manifestation of the worry is the restlessness. Say that I regret about a word that I have spoken. My mind is not still. The immediate reaction is the restlessness. That's why Buddha gave a training rule. Buddha put training rules to stop this restlessness. Because we filter out the actions in our life which can bring us restlessness. Because every our actions brings either regret or either inner peace, inner happiness. But if we don't filter out the things which brings us regret, we cannot calm the mind. So that's why Buddha said not to kill, not to steal, not to sexual misconduct. Why? Because these things can bring us regret. And as a result, it can bring restlessness. Then he cannot know or see. Imagine a bowl of water ruffled by the wind so that the water trembled, eddied, and rippled. What if the water is rippling in the bowl? We cannot see our reflection. A man with good eyesight were to look at the reflection of his own face in it, he would not know or see it as it really was. And the fifth, the last hindrance, which blocks our mindfulness, is again Brahman when a man dwells with his heart possessed and overwhelmed by doubt and wavering. These two also combined goes together. Doubt and wavering. He cannot know or see. Doubting about the meditation itself, doubting about their own potential, and doubting about the teacher can distract the mind, can block the mindfulness. He cannot know or see. Buddha say it is like a bowl of water which is agitated and stirred up and muddied, put in a dark place. If a man with good eyesight were to look at the reflection of his own face in it, he would not know or see it as it really was. So that is also a mental state that uh, blocks our mindfulness. So as a result, we won't be able to do any mental activity. Again, we won't be able to do because they are overpowering us, and we won't be able to recall and retain from the things that we did in the past. This is why sometimes when right after the mindful meditation, let's say a person is doing breathing meditation, sometimes when they wake up, when they open up their eyes, so they feel they are lost. It's because of, it can be because of one single thing we learned here, or maybe it can be all of these five things we learned. That mind could be among one mental state or mix with all the mental states. But mostly people say that my mind is so much distracted to the past or to the future or even to the present moment. My mind is wandering. Is they are fighting with the first hindrance, the first obstacle that we learned, the sense desire. That time, his mind is overpowered by sense desire. So one would think that does that mean I don't have the rest of the other hindrances, rest of the other obstacles to my mind? No, actually, when there is a sense desire, we see it is overpowered our mind. Once we remove the sense desire, we'll see the next distraction, the next obstacle, the next hindrances is popping up. So then we have to fight with that too. And again, we will neutralize that, and then we'll see the sleepiness. And when we neutralize the sleepiness, we'll have to face with the doubt, restlessness. So yeah, these are the things uh, we have to neutralize during a meditation to develop mindfulness. But what do you think, my friends? All of these hindrances, these obstacles, like sense desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, worry and restlessness, doubt and wavering. So these all are connected with our thinking pattern. So they all arise from our side. It arises from the way that we think. So let's go back to the here where would they say when the doubt and wavering is possessed and overwhelmed a person's mind, he cannot know or see as it really is uh, what is to his own profit, to the profit of others, to the profit of both. Then even sacred words he has long studied are not clear to him, not to mention those he has studied. So it can prevent the mindfulness. As a result, we won't be able to recall and we won't be able to focus our mindfulness to any object. But Brahman, when a man dwells with his heart not possessed, not overwhelmed by sense desire, then he knows and sees that is as it really is, what is to his own profit, to the profit of others, to the profit of both himself and others. Then even the sacred words he has no long learned, long studied, not long studied are clear to him, not to mention those he has studied. It is like a bowl of water, clear, limpid, set in the open, without mixed with different colors. It is like a well purified water bowl. It is very clear. When the mind is not with the sense desires, mind is very clear. Then he can see what is good, what is bad, what is the reality of my mind, how the thoughts arise in my mind and how they are vanishes, how the feeling arises in me and how they are vanishes, and what exactly is impermanent, what exactly is unsatisfactoriness, what exactly is non-self. So they'll get that knowledge because they see the nature of the mind without sense desire. So there's nothing to block his mindfulness. Then even the sacred words he has not long studied are clear to him, not to mention those he has studied. The same with the ill will, sloth and torpor, worry and restlessness, doubt and wavering. So there were similes for that. Just like a water bowl clear from colors, is not boiling, not filled with moss, not rippling, not placed in the dark, as clear as crystals. You see your facial reflection very easily. Same way, you will see your heart, your feelings more easily, and you will be peaceful and precise with your actions. You can easily remember things. So, how we can neutralize the power of these five hindrances? How can we overpower them? How can we remove them from our mind? Is it possible to remove these forever? Now the Buddha say, when monks or a practitioner, here it said bhikkhus, a noble disciple listens to the Dhamma, Dhamma means the teachings, with eager ears, attending to it as a matter of vital concern, directing his whole mind to it. On that occasion, the five hindrances are not present in him. Why? His mind start to work with the teaching. When the mind start to work with the teaching, teaching is not something outside, it is about our own inner life, inner world. When we start to understand the teachings, it can prevent all the hindrances by entering to the mind. It can prevent the sense desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, doubt, and wavering. It can stop this mental states. When we listen to the teachings with eager ears, attending to it as a matter of vital concern, directing his whole mind to it. If you focus your entire mind to the teaching, to the Dhamma, when it's being taught, so your mind will be peaceful. Your mind will be so much clear, like a water which is free from colors, darkness, aquatic plants, and it's not bubbling and it's not boiling. Your mind will be so peaceful. It is said that while the Buddha, when he was alive, when he was teaching these teachings to the people, so when they listen by Buddha's own mouth, so it brings them so much joy that their mind is not wandering anywhere. It brings them so much happiness, inner peace to them. And then that's how Buddha teach the disciples the teaching. And then all the hindrances, the obstructions to the mindfulness will be neutralized. And then Buddha start to teach about the impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and not self-nature. Then they realize it. So even today we have the teachings of the Buddha. So this is a one reason why I'm always focused to the only to the teachings, only to the statements by the Buddha, because it has the power to bring us the mindfulness. It has the power to neutralize all our hindrances, all our obstacles to the mindfulness. It can develop our mindfulness. So one can see which is this true or not, is it whether it's true or not by listening to the Dhamma. So I don't think we can still our mind or be mindful when we listening to the teachings um, from YouTube. Because sometimes when we start to find some topic, so we end up with a different topic. So it's very difficult to maintain our mindfulness in while we are finding a Dhamma talk in YouTube. But it is still worth to listen. But I find my teacher Bante taught us, if please try to read the teachings. So that way you can also focus to the teachings, and your mind can function, your mind can work with these teachings. So that way it can bring you mindfulness. So if one need to be mindful of the question, there is some techniques. Develop the habit of reading the Dhamma and memorizing it. Next, when you are free, try to reflect the Dhamma you already studied. When you always reflect the Dhamma, because of mind inclines to what we often reflect, your mind will less engage with hindrances. Mind will start to remain focused by the support of Dhamma. Gradually, your mind will reach to the wakefulness. So there are many, many more things to do while we are seeking for our liberation, while we are seeking the mindfulness. We have to be surrounded with the things which support our mindfulness, with the things neutralizes the hindrances, neutralize the obstacles of the mindfulness. So that teaching was taught by the Buddha to that Brahmin. So he was so delighted in that teaching. So uh, so here we learn Buddha's teachings. So now from your side, you should memorize this. And whenever you are free, try to reflect on the teachings that we already learned. And then it can gradually bring you mindfulness. So may all my friends be able to develop mindfulness and be able to live always happily. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo Buddhaya, friends.